Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today I'm leading the show with a conversation on the persistent killings in Plateau, Benue, and Southern Kaduna. This past week, between the 17th and 18th of August, there was another attack in the Mangu local government area in Plateau where initially 18 people were killed. But up to today now, I think that number has risen up to 25. We know that the political season is upon us, and attention may be shifting away from these dastardly attacks in these portions of the country. But we will keep an eye on it, and that's why I'm going to be having a conversation today with the leader of a group in the United States of Nigerians who are saying that these issues must remain front and center. So I'd like to welcome again to Inside Sources the president of the Save Nigeria Group, Mr. Stephen Osemwegwe, all the way from the United States. My brother, good to see you again on Inside Sources.
Thank you very much, Laolu. Greetings, Nigerians, and happy election season. But let's stay focused on the lives of folks in the rural areas, particularly those states you just mentioned, Plateau, Benue, and Southern Kaduna.
Very well so. I mean, we will not relent. We cannot relent. Your statement was released on Wednesday. That is the Save Nigeria Group USA, where you talked about, I'm going to quote portions of it. You said that the Save Nigeria Group, alongside our coalition partners, unequivocally condemns the horrific blood-soaked invasion of innocent communities in Mangu local government area of Plateau State. That was on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. And then by Friday, U.S. Congressman Chris Smith, who is the chair of the House of Reps Committee on Africa and Human Rights and other issues, also issued a statement to condemn those killings. And it's just clear to me that these killings are continuing, even though we have seen quite a lot of movement in terms of how to manage it. Recently, the Nigerian delegation returned from the U.S. to have a meeting with the Americans for the U.S.-Nigeria Joint Working Group. So I want you to open the conversation today, Stephen, by telling us, what else can we do to stop these killings, especially now that politics is upon us?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Laolu. Again, greetings, Nigerians, and thank you for having me back on the show. As Save Nigeria Group, Nigerians here in America were appalled that in spite of the global awareness, in spite of the fact that the United States government is now working in close proximity with the Nigerian government on a working group, which is called the U.S.-Nigeria Working Group. And in spite of the fact that last week, senior members of the Federal Executive Council, led by NSA Nuhu Ribadu and the Foreign Affairs Minister, Bianca Ojukwu, they were here with the Minister of Defense, Christopher Musa, and other high-level leaders. They were here in Washington, D.C., engaging on the issue of people that are being killed, and not just generally people, Christians in farming communities being targeted by radical Islamic terrorist groups who claim to want to do whatever they want to carry out. We are appalled that the killings appear not to be ceasing or reducing. Laolu, Amnesty International have a number that is shocking. Between 2023 May and 2025 May, 10,000 people have been killed in that Middle Belt area alone. As a matter of fact, Plateau State, Laolu, has suffered 2,600 deaths. Wow. That is according to the numbers of Amnesty International. You and I know that the numbers on ground could be higher. We are not even talking about the injured. We are not even talking about the displaced. For every one person killed, there's at least 30 to 40 people displaced in places we call IDP camps. Laolu, one of the things that we are calling for as a group is that yes, meetings are good. For example, it took a lot for the Nigerian government to send delegations all the way to the United States to sit down with U.S. leadership, led by Alison Hooker, who is the undersecretary in charge of the U.S. side of the partnership. It is good to meet with the Department of War. It is good to meet with the State Department. But beyond the meetings and rhetorics and resolutions, Laolu and Nigerians, how about we take this as a critical issue that has to be solved? Laolu, right now in Nigeria, elections is in the air. People are talking about their candidates, and there was even a scorecard which our current administration released about the economy. We would like to see a scorecard on security as well, Laolu. Because our concern here in the United States is that when we are looking at Nigeria, is that the rural area appears to be abandoned. Laolu, this war on folks in the rural area is so bad that many villages are deserted, including places like Kwara, Kogi, and of course, Plateau, Benue, the epicenter of this crisis, and southern Kaduna. We are calling for joint action, not just in the United States. Laolu, you live in Nigeria now, but you used to live here. One of the challenges we have is that this issue appears not to be so important for our folks in Nigeria. When you look at the Nigerian news, the Nigeria dailies, the Nigeria civil society groups, it appears that when you hear 25 people are killed, Laolu, it doesn't bother people anymore. Save Nigeria Group, our organization here in the United States, is saying that we will not be silent. This issue is important to us. It should be important to you. As a Nigerian, you may be in Lagos, you may be in Abuja, Kaduna, anywhere you may be in the city center. But our brothers and sisters who farm and produce food that we eat in city centers are at risk on a daily basis. There has to be a concerted effort. There are steps in the right direction, Laolu, around conversations as state policing, vigilante groups, and other measures. But these things have not been implemented or they are not being fast-tracked. There needs to be a state of emergency in security in the rural areas. Because these cowards, they call terrorists, they like to attack soft targets. We know that we don't have enough security personnel to cover the entire length and breadth of the vast country of Nigeria. Therefore, states like Benue, Plateau, and southern Kaduna, and even Kogi and Kwara, those parts where we know that these things occur, Laolu, it is only responsible that we sort security forces to this area to prevent and preempt. There should be intelligence sharing, which is what we appeal to President Trump and the State Department and the U.S. Department of War. Please, we want more intelligence sharing with Nigeria. America has capacity to work with the Nigerian military in order for these things to be prevented. Laolu, I am tired. I don't know about others.
Okay, all right, yeah. Of course, it could be...
I'm tired of hearing reports of many killed. When will this end?
Yeah.
We want it.
Yeah, I mean, I share in that sentiment, and I'm sure that there are quite a lot of other Nigerians out there, who have also refused to become desensitized, which is the danger of all of these things that, if it happens for too long, people just accept that, it's the way of life. Let me just deepen the conversation because after your group issued a statement, the U.S. Congressman Chris Smith, like I said, representing New Jersey, who is very upfront on this matter, also issued a statement this last Friday. And he said, as reports of the attacks and casualty figures continue to emerge, he called upon the Nigerian government to take immediate action to prevent vulnerable Christian communities and bring the perpetrators to justice. I'm going to quote him directly. This is Congressman Smith, U.S. Congressman Smith. He says, despite denials by Nigerian government actors, Christians continue to be slaughtered while Nigerian officials fail to provide adequate protection or hold the perpetrators accountable. He said, enough is enough. The Nigerian government must fulfill its most basic responsibility of protecting its citizens. Now, that was an excerpt from Congressman Chris Smith statement on this killing that happened this past week in the Mangu local government area of Plateau. But my question to you is that I heard that the last time the Nigerian side of the working group came to the United States, which is recently, that there were talks and there were requests that Nigeria should be removed from the CPC, the country of particular concern designation, which President Trump had done, I believe, late last year or thereabout. Do you think, Mr. Stephen, that with the persistence of these killings, and, the congressman says Christians, but we are willing we know that it's Christians certainly being killed because they are Christians, but there are also Muslims who are also being killed, okay? So we know that the killings is continuous and it affects, both groups and even others. But do you think that the U.S. should start reconsidering that designation at this time?
Thank you, Laolu. Number one is that this designation is a tool for the United States to alert local governments, sovereign governments across the world, that the United States is not okay with egregious religious freedom violations. For example, China has been on the CPC list for a long time. Saudi Arabia has been on the CPC list. Being on the CPC list CPC means country of particular concern. America is saying to that country, we are concerned that in your country, people are having egregious violations. For example, people get attacked when they are in the worship centers. Churches particularly gets attacked. Mosques has also been attacked, which is why we as a Nigeria group, we always emphasize that we don't want anybody to be killed. Particularly when you say the semantics of the argument, is this a Christian-led killing? Is it motivated by religion or not? I think that is an insult to the people that are dying. Those that are being buried in mass grave today, Laolu, they don't care what you call it. They want it to stop. We want it to stop. So removing Nigeria from this CPC list or not is beside the point. I would have thought, and I believe, as a matter of fact, it's clear that the current administration led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the NSA charging to the United States to remove Nigeria from the list is because they don't want to be tagged as a country where religious freedom is violated, because sometimes they look at southern Nigeria and other parts that are peaceful where there is really no issues at all. For example, Port Harcourt, Southwest is beginning to crop up after Oyo, although that was a focus on school kidnapping. The point is that in our middle belt, Benue, Plateau, Southern Kaduna, Kwara, and even parts of Kogi and Nasarawa State, people there cannot go to their villages. People there cannot worship with their two eyes closed. This is the reason why Nigeria is on that list. We have been appealing. We met several of our leaders, and we continue to appeal even through this program. Let us seize this opportunity that the United States has alerted us to our own problem. Because our solution lies at home. America is not going to solve this problem for us. We as a country, Nigerians themselves, have to decide that enough is enough. You heard our great Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey saying enough is enough. Laolu, what I expected is after this Mangu attack, where 25 people were slaughtered in their sleep, and majority of them women and children, I would have expected our government to come up with that tag, enough is enough. Not a demand from New Jersey. That is the point. It is Nigerians and Nigerians themselves, including our government, whose responsibility is the protection of life and property, that should say enough is enough. And once we declare that enough is enough in the killings, particularly in the rural areas, in the middle belt, then we can mobilize resources. Nigeria has friends. They have partnership not only in the United States. The United Kingdom is there. France is there. They have capacity. Israel is there. There are many countries that Nigeria can call upon, and they will be willing to help. But Nigeria has to be the one to call for help. Our emphasis on this is no issue, nothing to see here, let's move into election politics, I think it's a mistake. And I want to commend the fact that gains have already been made. For example, ISIS number 2 was killed in Nigeria recently due to partnership. We have had several release of kidnapped victims, Laolu. These are good things. My argument is that with the mobilization we saw in Oyo, where those innocent school children and the teachers were rescued by our brave military, working with the United States and other international partners. We would like to see similar deployments in Plateau, in Benue, and in Kaduna, Southern Kaduna. Similar to what we saw. It was massive and it was successful. We hope that the government will build on this. And as a group here in the United States, we are willing to help our country. We are willing to add to their own voice to say, give us the resources we need. When we meet the Congress, we usually tell them, please give us the platform, intelligence, what you have, give us. So that our government can have the capacity to deal with these criminals that is coming to poison our country, to create a seeming religious motivated division. Nigeria has been together for a long time. We are over 60 years old. I grew up in a compound where there are Christians and Muslims. We didn't kill each other. We ate ram in the Salah and they ate chicken in Christmas. This terrorism is not part of us, and I will continue to argue that we must eliminate the terrorism that is the problem. And the CPC designation should not be an issue, because once the killing stop, once people can go back from the camps, Laolu, you will leave the list normally. The list should not be the priority, Laolu.
Okay, I agree with you. You know, and it's important to get those views out, because it seems that one of the priorities of our government, you know, in their talks with the Americans, is how to remove that designation. You know, and I agree that the best way to do that is to sort out this problem. Now, the president did make a statement about the Mangu killings, you know, calling it dastardly, and hopefully we will see some kind of going after the perpetrators. Now, we must consider that, you know, we've seen an improvement compared to previous governments in trying to go after the perpetrators, but this has to be done conclusively all the way so that we can have a sharp, a real turning point in the way that the federal government is really doing this. But I'd like to ask you one more question as we begin to close, and this is coming from what Congressman Smith said, which I'm going to read, and then I'm going to ask for your views on that. He said, in that statement that he made on Friday about this Mangu killing, as a matter of fact, he is quoting 30 killed in his own statement, which was released on Friday. You know, so we're talking about between 25 and 30 Nigerians that were just, you know, viciously and heinously murdered. He said to the federal government, he said, and I'm quoting him, Congressman Smith, he said, instead of spending millions of dollars, $9 million to be exact, in an attempt to improve its image in Washington, the Nigerian government should redirect those resources towards protecting its people and addressing this grave security crisis. That was how Congressman Smith concluded his statement on the killings in Mangu on Friday. His statement that was released on Friday. He said that instead of the federal government spending $9 million to improve its image, that maybe they should divert some of those resources to address what is clearly a grave security crisis. What's your comment? Final word, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Laolu. The best PRO for a country is results. No matter the amount you spend, if you are talking about the fact that Nigeria is safe, come and invest. There was a major investment summit that happened in Canada where our Chief of Staff to the President, the Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, was speaking and talking about investing in Nigeria, and many other eminent Nigerians were there in Canada for that event last week, I think.
Right.
I think before we begin to look for investment, we need to solve the non-tangible critical infrastructure that will attract that investment. And that means reducing this killing. I understand. We are not naive. Is in America, people still get killed. For example, you go to places like Chicago and other parts, killings can happen. But what happens when it happens is that the perpetrators are apprehended and prosecuted. Laolu, I don't know if you've heard that the people who killed these 25 to 30 people 5 days ago, that they've been apprehended. Have you heard? I haven't heard.
Well, you know, the president has asked that they should be apprehended. We are still waiting for an update on that.
Exactly. In Southern Kaduna, 30 people were also killed. I don't know why the number 30. That was about a month ago in Southern Kaduna. And that we've not seen the people televised on channels or any of your channel and other media. These are the perpetrators that killed 30 people 4 weeks ago. So one of the things that we want to encourage and appeal to our government, yes, it is not easy. Nigeria needs more capacity, more personnel, more financial commitments to fight insecurity. It's a vast country. But one of the things you can do that will better save your $9 million, if that is actually true, that you are spending hard-earned 9 million taxpayers' money, it is better spent on going after the perpetrators so that it will serve as a warning. Just like in some state law where kidnapping becomes an issue, you see governors demolishing the houses of the alleged kidnappers, going after them in order to reduce the incentive. Right now, there's a group that is largely responsible according to the victims, and they tell us, I am not the victim. I'm not in Nigeria to tell you who. But they are saying that those attacking them, Laolu, in the Middle Belt are Fulani ethnic militia. How many of them, the leaders of this group, have been held accountable? Are they untouchable? Are they bigger than Nigeria state? Are they bigger than the presidency, the great Nigeria military? I don't think so. So I want to appeal to our government and also our population. It's not just the government alone. State governors, local government, they collect allocation. You need to secure life and property. Everything cannot be only Abuja. Because there's this thing about pointing to Abuja, whereas you collect security vote as a governor. We need to, security is everybody's business. Laolu, you know when you lived in New York, there's local, New York, NYPD. When you go to Long Island, there's local police over there.
Right.
You know, Nassau County and the rest of them. But in Nigeria, we are beginning to talk about state policing, but the point is that all security is local. It's everybody's business.
Right.
It has to be a whole of society effort. And Save Nigeria Group will continue to advocate and create awareness and find ways to support. For example, we are beginning to gather relief materials, Laolu, to send to the IDPs in Nigeria. And if you are watching this show, you are in America, please go to www.savenigeriagroup.org. Send us your new clothes, shoes. We want to ship them to these camps so that those people can have things to wear while they are waiting to be relocated back. Because this ends when the IDPs can go back home.
Thank you so much for your voice, and thank you for the charity, that you just spoke about. We have to also condole the families of those that have died in Mangu local government in Plateau, and we give our undertaking that we will keep these issues, these killings, we will keep it on the front burner, because we believe that the Nigerian government has the capacity to stop the killings. And we will work with the Nigerian government, with the Americans, and anybody at all that wants to help us to stop this killing. Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen Osemwegwe. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me. Take care, Nigerians. Politics without bitterness.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that's our opening segment. We're going to be returning in the next segment to the conversation that I started on Friday with oil expert and business consultant, Mr. Dan Kunle. We are started on Friday. We're going to be concluding it in the next segment. Inside Sources will be right back.